But ladies, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you the truth for every single woman in here, okay? Here's the reality of the situation. No matter how much your man loves you, no matter how meek that man might be, I can guarantee you 100% that he does not want to share his food with you. I'm serious. And I know some of y'all right now, some of you ladies are like, no, you don't know my man. We was out last week. We was doing our thing. I sat down. I said, yo, baby, can I get some of that? And he looked at me with eyes of grace. He said, yeah, give it here. He was lying to you, Sugarfoot. And on the inside, he was like, nah, I'm not trying to give you anything. I'm going to because I love you, but I don't want to do this. To be honest with you, this is the love of my life on the front row. It's been the biggest struggle in our relationship. If you want to ask us, you want to come into our world, you know what the biggest struggle is in our relationship? Food. 100%. About a month ago, we're sitting men are pointing, preach for me, bro. Okay. We're at Ladera about a month ago, okay? It's me and her. We try to get date night on the calendar every single week. I said, you know what, baby? Let's do it big. We're going to downtown Mohill. Could you imagine? See, some of y'all got it worse though. Hey, let's do it big. We're going to Gilroy. So we end up going to a little spot out there. It's known as Ladera. Great spot. I love it. Anybody been to Ladera? Super good. And we're out there, and I'm sitting with her, and she's like, I want the lamb. I'm like, oh, because you need Jesus, the Lamb of God. You know, so I'm like, take the lamb, partake of him. God is good. And so she ended up ordering the lamb, and I'm like, yo, man. And so I look at the waiter. I'm like, yeah, man, I want the ahi tuna. She's like, oh, good. Guys, I cannot make this up. The waiter walks up, and she's like, oh, what are you guys going to be getting? And Becky's like, oh, I want the lamb. And I'm like, oh, cool. I want the ahi tuna. And she looked at me being dead serious. She's like, baby, I'm so happy you're ordering that. I want that too. And I look at her, I'm like, baby, why don't you order? She's like, no, yours. We'll be fine, just want a little bit. And so you close your eyes and pray, they start picking off your plate. Giving. You know, whether we know it or not, giving is something that goes against our human nature. I mean, my baby niece Chandler, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in this world, but her natural inclination these days and her natural response is no. Her natural response is mine. Give me. No, Chase, no. She's just losing her mind like, girl, get here, I'll whoop you. For real, you're crazy. And so, but she's beautiful, but it's interesting to me, church, that it seems that in the Bible, it talks about how Paul is writing the church and he tells them that I'm still feeding you milk, but I want to move to more solid food, but you won't grow up. And when I take a look back and I look at the state of our world, church, I think it's very, very similar to my 2-year-old niece. Giving is something that isn't coming naturally like it used to. People are very self-centered and overwhelmingly self-focused, and it's becoming the type of thing, what can you do for me? And what you do for me will determine what I do for you. And that's the world's mentality, and I can absolutely handle that at the end of the day. I can understand in businesses and corporations and in organizations that's how they work. That's why you go to college, get your degree, resume, the whole nine. And I get that aspect, church. But for us who claim to be Christians, there seems to be a mentality in the church where this is beginning to creep in as well. When we come to church with the expectation of saying, God, what can you do for me? Versus God, what can I do for you? Well, we'll look at people around us in our communities and friends that we'll see, and we'll be feeling overwhelmingly inconvenienced by them needing something. And all of a sudden, generosity becomes somewhat of a demand, and it's not something that flows lightly and beautifully. And the church has become so much like the world in regards to selfishness and in regards to greed and in regards to wanting to do it our own way, that people can't seem to tell the difference. What makes us different in this room? Because the culture of the church cannot change the culture of the world if the culture of the church looks exactly like the world. So we have to ask ourselves, church, as God has prophetically spoken over our house for this year, that this will be the year that my goodness passes before you. We have to ask ourselves a question. What does God's goodness look like in comparison to ours? Because I think that goodness is a matter of perspective in today's society. It's a matter of perspective. You talk to different individuals and they'll tell you what goodness is to them. You'll talk to different people and they'll talk about morality and what's good and what's evil. But I guarantee you, in the western part of the United States, what's good to us is different than somebody living in Saudi Arabia. Goodness is a perspective. So we as a community have the understanding that morality and the moral code of man cannot be based off of the perspective of humanity. We have to take a step back and look at the designer and look at the creator as his design and as his creation and ask ourselves, what does goodness look like in the eyes of God? And I want to encourage you tonight that when you look at his goodness, it will discourage you at first. You'll be like, man, I don't know about that. That's a little too good. That's like one of those like infomercials you see on TV. They'll like do this little half crunch and you'll lose 30 pounds in 30 days. That's a little too good. That's a little edgy for me. I don't know about that. It's too good to be true. And you better believe that this message is too good to be true. That's a great way to describe it. We pick up in the first passage with a man by the name of John, and John is in this crazy, crazy space of the Spirit. And he begins to write the book of Revelation to prophesy what the end of the world is going to look like. And Jesus is speaking a lot throughout the passage, prophetically, but also in the context of the time. And what he's doing is something that's intriguing to me, church, is he's writing a church. If we could throw the first verse up on the screen. He's writing a church, and it says, quote, I know all the things you do, and that you have a reputation for being alive. I began to ask myself, what does the reputation for being alive look like? Crowds. Lights. Kanye said it perfect. All of the lights, all of the lights. Lights. Great music. Phenomenal community. Good vibes. Chill. Fun. Good media. With them. Awesome pictures. Fun pastor. Entertaining. Great. Something to do. From the world's lenses, this place looked alive. But from Jesus' lenses, the church was dead. I read over this passage, church, and I got that like weird feeling that went down my spine. I'm like, uh-oh. And I had to look in the mirror as a shepherd and as a pastor and ask myself, God, do I care more about what you think or do I care more about what the world thinks? Because at the end of the day, you understand the culture of the church because you purchased it through your blood. And what you think about the church is ultimately going to dictate its success, its power, and whether or not the Holy Spirit will manifest itself in a powerful, life-changing, transforming way. But the world has a perspective as well. And I want the world to love us. We want to draw people. But at the end of the day, as a pastor, I am here as a representative of God. And what matters the most is what Jesus says about this house. It's possible to be living like you're alive. But in Jesus' eyes, you're really dead. It's possible to feel like you have life in you. But Jesus says you're as meaningless as a carcass. So much strong verbiage. And he says, wake up. Snap out of it. Get out of that space. And you know what he says to do? Get back to basics. He says, wake up. What little remains, for even what is left is almost dead. I find that your actions do not meet the requirements of my God. He says, go back to what you heard and believed. You know, one of the biggest problems with the church, and JT was alluding to it, salvation gets old. We get used to being saved. We forget the cross. We forget all that he did in order to purchase us. And then we start coming and we start sitting in the chairs and having this weekly experience that is great. I love the lights. I love the media. I love the chairs. I love the worship. I love everything about Encounter. Church really does go up on a Tuesday, man. I absolutely love it. And it's great. And I appreciate it. But at the end of the day, if we are not experiencing God, if this is just a gathering for the sake of a gathering, if this is us just coming together for the sake of coming together, then we are missing the point of what it means to be saved. Jesus is saying, go back to your beliefs, go back to the cross, go back to grace, go back to mercy, go back to that moment where you were in that service and your heart burned within you and you wanted to be used by God and you believed that you could do anything and you began to dream bigger, believe harder, stand firmer, go back. You're going to be seated in the presence of the Lord. Look at your neighbor and say, go back. Go back. Look at your other neighbor and say, he's black. Go back. Go back. Paul would say something interesting. He says, you know, in the last days, also talking about the church, he's like, men will become lovers of themselves and they'll become lovers of money. And he begins to give a massive, massive, massive list of all the things that people in the last days will do. And then he says, in conclusion to all those things, they will have a form of godliness, but they'll deny the power. I wonder tonight, truthfully, do you have a form of God rather than operating in the fullness of God? Do you have a little bit of Jesus? You know what I mean? A little bit of Jesus. I just want to sprinkle him on top of my steak. A little bit of Jesus. Partake. He's on it. Because for some of us in this room, we're married to the world, but we flirt with Jesus. We're in relationship, you know, with the world. But Jesus, we just flirting. Hey, you look good on Tuesdays. It's flirtation, but not enough to give yourself away. Not enough to give everything. And this is the form, the little bit that I believe John was referring to. He's like, there's a little bit in you that's alive, but it's not overtaking your life to the point where you're burning for Jesus every single day. And that does not mean that you will not have hard moments. That does not mean that you will have moments where you don't want to serve God. That will not mean that there will be moments that you doubt. Absolutely. But you know within yourself when you're doing everything within you to live for God, and you know when it's a form rather than when it's full. And Paul was saying, there's a form of godliness, but they're denying the power. That word form is a little bit. There's a little bit of a sculpt there that points people to God. Come on, I do good things, Chase. I gave $10 to the homeless dude on the street the other day. I got a form of godliness. A little bit. Come on, Chase. I've been coming every week. I got a form of godliness. Chase, I got a little bit. Come on. Offering bag went around. I put a dab in there. $20 of my hard-earned money in it. Got a form of godliness. And Jesus is like, fullness. I've called you to fullness. I've called you to the more. Strength to strength. Grace to grace. Glory to glory. The more. The higher place. The higher level. Eye has not seen. Ear has not heard. The things that God has planned for those who love him and are called according to his purposes. The more. The next level. And so we must ask ourselves, as a community and as Christian believers, we need to have a moment of